Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday, March 22nd, and I'm State Senator Julie Kushner, co-chair of the Labor and Public Employees Committee, and I'm calling this meeting to order at 12:03 p.m. So welcome to all of you on the committee and all of our staff that have been so helpful in getting our agenda prepared for today. We will begin with remarks from our co-chair, my co-chair, and our ranking members. Representative Porter, do you have some remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and just good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to the members and to all that are tuning in Facebook Live. We're looking forward to having a great meeting and moving very important pieces of legislation onto the Senate and House chambers. So I'm excited, ready to get started. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Sampson, would you like to make some opening remarks?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Happy to be here participating in another Labor and Public Employees Committee meeting. I'd be lying if I said that I was thrilled with the agenda, but hopefully we can find some common ground on these items moving forward. For me, it's a little lopsided in favor of government control and regulation. And I would love to see more policy come out of this committee that is focused on creating opportunity for economic growth. But we'll continue our debates as we always do. And thank you for your indulgence, Madam Chairman.
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator Sampson. Representative Arora.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to everyone. Good morning to my esteemed colleagues, and good morning to everyone in the public who is tuned in to this very important meeting of our committee. I think this is, we are going to be discussing a number of very important bills. I will echo my colleagues, colleague senators' sentiment that there is a concern which we do have, which I've mentioned in my earlier remarks, that we wish there were more bipartisanship, and some of the ideas on the other side were also taken up during this session. I'm quite sorry to mention that none of the ideas for growth and for labor productivity which we put forward have been even adopted to be brought up. But nevertheless, our job is to do what we got to do, which is to discuss which comes in front of the committee, and we do look forward to an active conversation to make sure that these laws pass a certain due diligence test which we are supposed to do. Thank you, and I look forward to conversations.
Thank you, Representative Arora. And I do want to comment that it's great to see a number of my colleagues here. I know just for the public, you should know that we have multiple meetings going on all the time at the same time. And so people do come in and out of meetings as they're required to do so because of their other responsibilities. But it's great to see so many folks here today. So we're going to start off with item number 3 on the agenda and subcategory item number 1. And that is Senate Bill number 321, an act expanding workers' compensation coverage for post-traumatic stress injuries for all employees. And that's LCO number 3657. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Rep. Hughes.
And a second?
And by Rep. Porter.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, and I'll just give a brief explanation of this bill. We have been working on the expansion of workers' comp to cover post-traumatic stress injuries. We took that up in the past couple of sessions, including first responders, police and fire in 2019, and then adding to it dispatchers, EMTs, and we also have correctional officers. And last year we included healthcare workers who were dealing with the COVID crisis. This year, this bill will extend it to all workers. There is S language here, and it just makes a technical change to clarify that all employees are not eligible for the PTSI benefit until January 1st, 2023. So is there any discussion? I don't see any hands, so I would like to ask my colleagues if there's no opposition, we could start a consent calendar. Is there an interest in a consent calendar? I'll ask our ranking members. Senator Sampson.
Madam Chairman, as much as I would love to have a consent calendar, I do not believe there are enough items on this list to to make it worthwhile.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
And so I'm assuming we'll have a roll call vote. And Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, this is Senate Bill 321, JFS to the floor, LCO number 3657. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Senator Sampson.
Senator Sampson votes yes.
Representative Aurora.
Representative Aurora is a yes.
Senator Cabrera.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Representative Sanchez. Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson votes yes.
Representative Hall.
Representative Hall votes yes.
Representative Hughes.
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Thank you. Senator Lesser. Representative Vitigliano.
Tigliano votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Vargas.
Representative Vargas votes yes.
Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Madam Chair, we will be holding votes open and they'll, and I'll announce at the end of the meeting how long we'll be holding the votes open. So we won't ask for the roll at this time.
Thank you. Senator, sorry, Senator Kushner, 1 second. Representative Winkler, would you mind just repeating yourself? I did not see you on screen.
Representative
Perfect.
Winkler votes yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I jumped the
That's
gun there.
okay.
But I want to make sure you didn't announce a tally. Okay, thank you. Moving on, item number 2 on the agenda, House Bill number 5357, an act concerning mandatory overtime for nurses in hospitals, LCO number 3883. Do I have a motion?
Moved by Rep. Porter.
Representative, go ahead, Vargas.
Who was the second there?
Vargas was the second.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this bill, hold on 1 second. This bill generally puts restrictions on hospitals' ability to require nurses to work overtime and prohibits any retaliation against a nurse who does refuse to work overtime. And you know, this is a issue that I think will improve the patient care and make our hospitals safer and better able to handle the intensity of these jobs. There is S language here. The substitute language removes redundancy from language that addresses the prohibition on retaliation. And it also changes may to shall on line 79 and changes October to July on line 88. And I will recognize Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. You know, I went through this bill pretty thoroughly, and I'm certainly sympathetic to the plight of any individual employee that is faced with a work situation that they're not in favor of. But I also fail to understand exactly what our role is in that situation. This is a private agreement between an employer and an employee. And I believe that those items should be negotiated between those entities. And it's not our job to put favor on one side of that transaction or another. This is an at-will employment state. And if people don't like the terms of their employment, they can find another job. And of course, you know, the hospitals are going to be forced to accommodate employees that are only willing to work specific hours. That's how a free market works. I'm a fan of free markets. I believe that we live in the most prosperous nation in the world as a result of that freedom for individuals and businesses to come to their own conclusions. And I'm very much against the state government sticking its nose in where it does not belong. And particularly when it decides that it's going to give one person or one set of persons more rights than others. I think that's one of the first two sentences in our state constitution, that we don't write policy to benefit individuals or groups of people. We write laws for the protection of individual liberty so they can make their own choices. No one's liberties are being impacted here since the employee and the employer both have freedom of choice, and therefore our role is unnecessary. And I'm a no on this. And again, I encourage my colleagues to look around and understand that, Connecticut's future viability as a powerhouse as far as our economic growth and future prosperity goes directly ties into how much regulation we force upon business and industry in this state. And this whole agenda is just another attack on the freedom of people and businesses to figure it out for themselves and come up with great opportunities and innovation. One size fits all policies like this are not appropriate and should not be coming out of this committee. I'm a no, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sampson. Representative Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to, for the record, note that this bill directly addresses the workforce shortage crisis that we have in healthcare. And we actually need to prioritize protecting patient care from compulsory overtime, which is unsafe. And so I would argue that we are violating liberties to safe patient care by not having some protections around the unintended consequence, I would say, of this healthcare workforce shortage, where nurses are compelled to work far beyond what is safe and after tired, and they can't get to all the patients in a timely manner, and it puts patient care at risk. That is what this bill attempts to address. It doesn't address upstream how to get more nurses in the in the pipeline, but it does address exploiting the ones that are working faithfully to in the hospitals to support patient care. So.
Thank you, Representative Hughes. Representative Aurora.
Madam Chair, that's thank you for indulging me. I think that's the problem which we have, is that the hospitals, the administrators, those who manage those institutions are in a good position and are good people, and they are not trying to exploit or create unsafe conditions or to kill or hurt their patients, and putting them through, this is what we call red tape and measures written ad hoc by, I don't know, lawyers and people in government, is just the worst idea I've ever heard. I do think it's a good point to advocate with them to make sure that they're aware of certain situations where they may need to do long-term hiring or long-term investment in schools and hiring so that we don't have a shortage. I do agree with all of those ideas, but by compelling the far end, as if those people are bad people and we are the only good people, that those people don't know what they're doing, we know everything about everything. No, we don't. We are here representing our communities and our employees who work in the employees as in the workforce, and those who create employment. And we need to make sure that by burdening them when we really don't do the hard work. Put yourself in the shoes. I put myself in the shoes of a hospital or a manager who's basically scheduling and wants to make sure that no patient really goes unattended. That's not a good thing either. And I'm sure they work very hard to avoid all kinds of concerns which come with overscheduling or with overtime. And it's not expensive. It's not inexpensive either. So it is an economic consequence to them as well. So I think this is over interference and red tape of the worst kind. And to say that we know better and hospitals are bad guys and they don't know how to schedule and they're going to force overtime upon is just not acceptable. I will be voting no, and I encourage every single member to think through this, that this is not only about this bill, that it is sending a strong signal of red tape and control. And it is very objectionable. And I think I agree with the sentiment mentioned by my good senator here, that's what leads to ruin. When the government starts controlling everything and thinks they know better. I think we should be humble. We should be reasonable. We should be honest that we really don't know as much. And the fact that we should trust other citizens, that they are not bad people who are going to make unsafe decisions for either their patients or the employees. And we should trust them that they will do right. And we should trust our system of our justice system, that if they do not do right, there are other remedies available. So once again, this is not something the Labor Committee and we should do. And I strongly urge you to vote a strong no on this bill. I know we differ in other ideologies, but this is something we got to come together, not to interfere in good running hospitals and good running administrators and create unintended consequences, which could lead to really bad things just for in this situation and as a trend in other situations. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Aurora. And I'll just point out that I don't think anyone that I've heard this morning has made any characteristics about, in general, or even specifically about bad or good behavior on the part of our hospital administrators. I know I have I think, good working relationship with the hospital in my area, although we don't agree on everything. We probably don't agree on this bill. I do think it is a result of labor policies over decades and decades that have created safe workplaces. And we know that those laws that are in place are incredibly important. And this is a bill that I think would further that goal. I have spent a lot of time talking with people who work in healthcare. And during that time, one of the key considerations has been about nurses' staffing levels and mandatory overtime. It's something that's not new. It's something that's been a concern for a number of years. Different states have different ways of addressing it. But here in Connecticut, we address it through legislation like this. And so I would urge my colleagues to support this and vote this bill out of committee. And I think it will make a difference in retaining very important healthcare professionals in the nursing field. And so I'm looking forward to having further conversations with folks about this. But today I'd like us to vote yes to JFS this to the floor. Any other hands? Being none, then, Representative Aurora.
Madam Chair, very briefly, I want to continue the conversation that some of these legislation like this have led to a lot of consolidation and many hospitals leaving or combining in our state. And as a result, that is causing a great challenge, a big challenge. So I think what we do not want to do is drive away every single entrepreneur and every single enterprise out of the state, so that what will stay will be a very difficult, small system which will not be able to take care of patients. And this is not a theoretical thing. We have seen over the last decade, hospitals either merge together or just leave the state. And we have seen more consolidation. We have seen consolidation of market power come about just because of this reason, because the laws are just not conducive. And yes, nobody is going to come and fight with us because, as a result, everybody wants to have a working relationship with such an important committee and members of this committee. But I think it's still our responsibility not to make our state so hostile to enterprises that they choose to leave. We are doing it. The fact that what they call the proof is in the pudding. Just let's not ignore evidence. Let's be honest about what exists, because if we are not, we'll be left with nothing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Aurora. I do want to point out that there has been a lot of consolidation in the healthcare industry, not just in our state, but around the entire United States. And I think there would be a lot of people that would dispute the fact that overregulation is the cause of consolidation. I think there's a real change in the way we deliver healthcare in our country, but I don't believe it has to do with these kinds of laws that would regulate mandatory overtime. I do want to point out that as a state, we already have strict overtime statutes, and this isn't something new. It's just going to make it better. So, Representative Rutigliano, good to see you today.
Good to see you, Madam. Just a quick question to you, Madam Chair. Will this bill supersede any collective bargaining agreements?
It's very specific in this bill that it will not affect collective bargainings that are in place before July 1st, 2022.
So, thank you, Madam. So going forward, this sort of removes something that can be collectively bargained for, one way or another.
Well, it doesn't remove it because you could still collectively bargain around the statute, but just like all of our statutes, you can't collectively bargain a new agreement that would disagree with the statutes in place.
Thank you. A quick comment, Madam Chair. I wanted to say that I agree with Representative Hughes. I do think sometimes that employees are overtired and they maybe possibly make bad decisions. I mean, I'm going to vote no, only because I do think that this should be part of the collective bargaining process. I believe, and I could be wrong, and you can correct me, that most hospitals and other facilities have some sort of representation, and that might be in a more appropriate place for this to take place. So thank you, Madam.
Thank you. And there are a number of hospitals in Connecticut that do have nurses unions in place and where there is collective bargaining, but I believe there's still quite a few that do not. And, you know, I know that one thing that is specific in this bill, that it does allow a nurse to volunteer or agree to work overtime, but with the following limitations: that a nurse may not be permitted to work more than 16 consecutive hours in a 24-hour period. And following any 16-hour period of work, the nurse must be given at least 10 hours, consecutive hours off. And I think, you know, so there is this consideration. There are also exceptions for things like if you're in an operating procedure and, you know, you're not going to ask someone to leave that operating room during a procedure that maybe takes a lot longer than one had expected initially. So, you know, I think it was a carefully constructed bill by people who, you know, are in the profession, have advised us on this, that really have as their primary concern taking care of patients. So I hope, and I would urge my colleagues to vote yes, and I appreciate your question, Representative Bertigliano. As seeing no other hands, then I will ask the clerk to take the roll call.
This is for House Bill 5357. It's a JFS to the floor, LCO number 3883. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Senator Sampson.
Senator Sampson votes no.
Representative Aurora.
Rep. Aurora votes no.
Senator Cabrera. Representative Sanchez. Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson votes no.
Representative Hall. Representative Hughes.
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Senator Lesser. Representative Bertigliano.
Rep. Bertigliano votes no.
Rep. Vargas.
Rep. Vargas votes yes.
Representative Vargas, can you please repeat yourself so I can see you on camera?
No problem. Representative Vargas votes yes.
Thank you. And Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
And Madam Clerk, I do see Senator Cabrera has joined us. I think he was here. I just think he was a little slow getting his camera on.
Okay, sure. Senator Cabrera.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Senate Bill number 320, an act concerning raising the threshold for unemployment overpayments, and that's LCO number 2207. This bill will increase the threshold. Oh, Senator Sampson, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
Madam Chairman, just before you make a motion to move this item on the agenda, I thought I would interrupt very briefly and suggest that looking at it, first off, I don't think the title is an accurate representation of what's happening in the bill. It doesn't have anything to do with unemployment overpayments. It has to do with an actual act of criminal act of fraud. And just looking at it, I don't know that this bill is properly before us. And I was hoping that you might consider a change of reference to the Judiciary Committee, which I think is a more appropriate venue to discuss, thresholds for various types of criminal sentences, whether it's a misdemeanor or Class D felony and so forth, just for your consideration, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Sampson. And I do want to let you know that we have had this bill in screening. We've had LCO involved and OLR. So I'm assuming that that this may in fact need in the screening process may end up being, after we voted out of committee, may end up going to another committee, including judiciary. But I do think it's appropriately here because it does deal with the overpayment of unemployment and what happens in the case of the overpayment, whether when it is determined that someone has knowingly made a false statement or failed to disclose a material fact to obtain unemployment benefits. This bill would raise the amount by which it becomes either a misdemeanor or a felony. And I think that is appropriately before us. I will recognize Representative Rutigliano, but I do want to get to the point of a motion here today, and then we'll have discussion on the bill. Representative Rutigliano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really was going to concur with the senator, although I am sympathetic to people who unknowingly got unemployment funds that they weren't entitled to and the repayment process of that and how it works. This is somebody that is actively committing a crime. And I did think that, I do believe that this bill at some point is going to end up in the Judiciary Committee. I just thought it might be expeditious just to change a reference right now and go that route. So I wanted to concur with the senator or second, if he was making a motion, possibly second it. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Representative Rutigliano. I will go ahead and take a motion on the bill. Is there a motion?
So moved by Rep. Porter.
Is there a second?
Second, Rep. Vargas.
Thank you. I do want to point out that during the public hearing that we had on this bill, one of the things that interested me a great deal was that one of the people who testified on it mentioned that if you were to steal a piece of private personal property, that it would not be a felony unless it reached the amount of $2,000, which I thought was interesting because I think that this bill is seeking to put some balance into it. At the time it became a felony at $500. It does seem to me that while we don't condone anyone knowingly making a false statement or failing to disclose information, I think that raising it to the threshold to $2,000, similar to how we treat other felonies for other theft, is appropriate. And that's why I'm urging folks to vote yes on this bill. I'm not sure whose hand went up first. If you give me 1 second, I'll tell you it was Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I appreciate your comments very much, and I'm sympathetic to this bill, as I mentioned, and I plan on supporting it today. But I do disagree that I think that the title really is inaccurate. This bill has very little to do with unemployment overpayments. That is an important issue that I hope that our committee does tackle at some point. But that is not what this bill is about. This bill is about someone who makes an active criminal effort to defraud the unemployment compensation fund and what their penalty will be. And I do believe it ought to match what it is for personal property. And I'm supportive of the policy based on that. But I don't like that the title is very, very misleading. And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Sampson. Representative Aurora.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just have a question on the bill. Does the under this bill, is it still going to be a misdemeanor if the amount is up to $2,000, or it is not even no longer any kind of a violation if you're under $2,000?
It would still be a misdemeanor.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I think bringing it to parity, I agree, is a good idea because our laws are across similar offenses should be similar. But at the same time, that's a purview of Judiciary Committee, not our committee. I think I agree with the earlier comments being made. But having said that, I do agree with the concept of the basic concept of the bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Aurora. Seeing no other hands, I will ask Madam Clerk to take the roll.
This is Senate Bill 320, a straight JF. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Senator Sampson.
Senator Sampson votes yes.
Yeah.
Is that why you were here?
May I just ask if everyone can mute themselves if they're not speaking? Thank you. Representative Aurora.
Representative Aurora is a yes.
Senator Cabrera.
Senator Cabrera is a yes.
Representative Sanchez. Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson votes yes.
Representative Hall. Representative Hughes.
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Senator Lesser. Representative Retigliano.
Retigliano votes yes.
Representative Vargas.
Representative Vargas votes yes.
Representative Vargas, can you just repeat yourself, please?
Representative Vargas votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda is item number 4, House Bill 5355, an act concerning sexual violence posting in the workplace, LCO number 3658. Is there a motion?
So moved by Rep. Porter.
Is there a
Second,
second?
Rep. Vargas.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. And there is S language on this, but I do want to let folks know the S language actually was the retitling of the bill. And the bill now would be, just give me a second to get the actual new title, which is an act concerning domestic violence posting in the workplace. This bill would require posting of a notice about how one might inquire about advice if they are aware, they themselves are aware of someone in the workplace that might benefit from calling the domestic violence hotline. It also will involve creating a free online training and education video, and there will be a CHRO website with a link on the CHRO website with information about domestic violence and other resources. It will require state agencies to provide training to current employees by July 1, 2023. For any employees hired after that date within 6 months of when they are hired, the training must include information about domestic violence, both abusers, victim behaviors, and how domestic violence can impact this and resources for victims. So that is the bill before us. Is there any discussion? Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. So just wanting to understand this bill thoroughly, it seems to me that we have already passed into law, and I think in a bipartisan way, similar requirement for video and postings of notifications for sexual violence. I'm just curious about the distinction here and whether or not that existing law covers this in some way, or are we creating a new requirement so that there's an additional video that these employees need to watch? And also with regard to non-state employees, because it looks to me like the bill simply requires any employer, maybe it's with more than a certain number of employees, maybe you can clarify that for me, I don't remember exactly what it was. They've got to do this posting. Is this a posting that can be modified from their existing posting requirement? Or is this something where they have to put up a whole new additional poster? I have small concern about, someone who has a small office space or something, filling their office with posters required by the state, or whether we can accommodate them by having one combined item, something like that. Through you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. My understanding is that CHRO has been working with one of the proponents of this bill with an advocacy organization. Right now, we have sexual harassment training required in the state, and that training does not focus specifically on domestic violence. This will be a much shorter training than the training that we're all required to take. and it will include a video. They're working on this process now, and so I don't think it'll be duplicative of what we already have, and it won't be. It will be a short training, so I don't think it will take as much time up. In terms of the posting, employers will be able to download a posting that will just simply give people information about where to go if they themselves or someone that they work with might benefit from resources on how to deal with domestic violence.
Right. Just to follow up, Madam Chairman, so is there a requirement that we pass a law to accommodate the first portion of this bill affecting state employees? Can't the state government simply create a requirement for their employees to participate in this video? And just a follow up again on the second part of my question, which is, for the private businesses that will be required to post some kind of poster or document in their facility, whether or not that can be combined with the existing one for sexual harassment training, or whether they've got to have multiple postings. I'm going to support this bill out of the committee today. I would like very much for us to get it to a point where it's done in a very thoughtful way, and we're not putting unnecessary burdens on employers to take up too much of their wall space, et cetera, while we still provide the necessary required notification. Through you, Madam Chairman.
I assume that the state could make a requirement that a training be given, but I think the difference is when you put it in statute, then it's not left to different administrations to determine how they're going to handle this. And we are saying that domestic violence is something that's so important for us to address that we think people will benefit from understanding more about it and knowing more about it, and therefore this would be required of all of the state to provide to all of its employees. The requirement to post is if you have 3 employees or more, and then you post in a prominent place. As you've noted, there are usually places in every place of employment. There's a spot where people go to look for the notices related to workplace conditions and rights. And so I assume it would be a small posting that would go in that area. Representative Aurora.
Madam Chair, I just have a question. This is domestic violence at workplace, because I'm not clear whether we get domestic violence at the workplace. So basically, but we're saying this is workplace being used to just tell everybody about the fact that the bad, the what to do or how to escape or what steps to take, kind of helping people using workplace as a forum or a platform. Am I thinking about this right?
This is not about domestic violence taking place in the workplace, but it is known to be, it's relevant to workplace situations that people who are experiencing domestic violence, it impacts their ability to perform in the workplace. Plus, we know that the workplace is often a resource victims of domestic violence have for finding out about how they address the problem that they have at home. So it is not about domestic violence taking place in the workplace, but about a very important way that we can improve and provide resources to victims of domestic violence. It does have an impact on the way people are able to work.
I understand. I'm just considering how with the modalities, because one of the issues which is really important is basically, and as you know, we lost 130,000 people last year, is use of fentanyl and drug abuse. So my question would be, again, workplace is a great way to disseminate information. So perhaps, I'm just thinking, there's a lot of social ills which we need to address. Using that board may be a good idea, or maybe we're crowding out that board. So those are real questions. I don't know how many folks here are private employers. For a long period of time, I was a private employer with employees. And one of the things which I always asked, folks who were doing HR and those boards for us, was to make those things better, because, if you have seen one, they are these are just a series of notices, and they do not, especially for those who are not very savvy in terms of reading the legal language of things, they sometimes really just get ignored and do not get really there's a decent amount of material out there, but they are unable to really go through and get advantage of it. Adding more, and I am, again, as my colleague said, will be supportive of this concept. But again, I think that we could do better, because I think some of these things need to be the right method of usage these days is going to be social media or electronic. And I think that physical board really is not doing the job it should be doing, and we need to think forward rather than think backward. Adding something on that board is really, and we should do. I don't think when employers are putting that n number of, maybe I think it's 10 or 12 different sections, they come together, and I've seen those, and I would stand in front of it, try to read it myself and figure out if I understood it. But I do think there is a real area of improvement by actually reducing the complexity and improving the effectiveness of both those disclosures, so as to say. And I want to tie it into one of my major problems, which again is not a concern of this committee, is whenever you really buy something or buy a piece of software, they make you thumb through 5 or 10 pages and then get their liability out, and then really nothing, and nobody ever has read that. I think this is happening. This is coming out to be something like that. So I ask our members and to think about effectiveness as much as the quantity. And this additional disclosure, while we'll be supporting it, I think we should be focused on effectiveness. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Aurora. Madam Chair, Representative Porter.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity. And I just wanted to ask that the members of this committee would support this out of committee. I hear, the debate going back and forth around this bill. And as a domestic survivor myself, I can tell you that it is very important that not just the person that is being subjected to the violence has these resources and information. It's also very important that the people that work in that space are educated and knowledgeable around domestic violence, what it looks like. Oftentimes predators will show up at workplaces, and some very unkind things can be said and done. And it doesn't just put the person who is the victim at risk, it puts the entire workplace at risk. And this is an education that's going to be compiled in compliance with CCADV and other folks to come up with something. And it's going to be no charge to the employer. It's going to be educational. It's going to put the tools in people's hands that they need so that those folks that are in trouble and in need of help and resources have a support system at work. And most people are at work more than they are at home. So I think this is very critical. I think it is very important. And even more so now with this pandemic, as we know, domestic violence has skyrocketed during this pandemic. Rightfully so. People are locked in together. They don't have anywhere to go. Bad situations have been made worse, and it has been a detriment, not just to the families, but it does carry over to the workplace. So I would again urge everyone to vote yes and to support this for the reasons stated. It's the right thing to do. It's the smart thing to do. And I think that, supplying this to the employers at no charge is also a benefit, not just to the people working, but also to the employers themselves and their business. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Chair Porter. Thank you. I will recognize Rep. Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would echo everything Rep. Porter said, that this is critical to raising awareness in the workplace, which protects all workers, because we know the lethality risk goes way up when domestic violence survivors attempt to leave or empower themselves to get out of the work environment. Out of the abusive environment, they might tell coworkers, and it can easily escalate violence in the workplace by the perpetrator showing up to create control. So by raising awareness in the entire workplace, it helps protect coworkers who may indeed be in danger. So I just wanted to point that out, like Representative Porter said, and the awareness being raised by the online Video trainings are very good, and we all benefit from taking them. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Hughes. Seeing no other hands, I will ask the clerk to take the roll.
This is for House Bill 5355. It's a JFS, LCO number 3658. Senator Kushner,
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter,
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Senator Sampson, Representative Aurora,
Representative Aurora is a yes.
Senator Cabrera,
Senator Cabrera is a yes.
Representative Sanchez, Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson votes yes.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes,
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Vitigliano.
Vitigliano votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Vargas.
Representative Vargas votes yes.
Thank you. And Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next on the agenda is number 5, Senate Bill 318, an act concerning captive audience meetings. It's a JF to the floor, LCO number 1589.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Senator Vargas, seconded by Representative Porter. This bill generally prohibits employers from disciplining or discharging an employee or threatening to do so because the employee refused to attend employer-sponsored meetings, listen to speech, or view communications primarily intended to convey the employer's opinion about political or religious matters. The political matters covered in the bill include decisions to join or support a political party or political, civil, community, fraternal, or labor organization. Religious matters relate to A, religious affiliation and practice, and B, decisions to join or support a religious organization or association. Is there any discussion? Seeing no hands, then I will Representative Aurora.
Madam, would that include, a political meeting to, for example, support an anti-war effort or, say things of that kind? Because political or join an organization which has got, many other, it's in some sense, are these political elements broad, narrow, or things which impact the business, import, export, or sanctions, things of that nature?
I think it's pretty clear that it's about support of a political party, a political civil community, a fraternal or labor organization. So I believe that it would prohibit an employer from requiring an employee to sit in a meeting discussing the employer's political view about war, for instance.
Oh, I see. And what about if the employer is specifically talking about a labor union, that would be covered?
Absolutely.
And if they are talking about labor laws?
I think if you
proposed labor laws?
Propose labor laws, I would imagine that would be considered political.
So, so if there is some good, labor laws, which, for example, they would like to their employees to advocate for, that they would be able to ask their employees to say, some safety laws, just like, for example, we're discussing about nursing, wanting certain mandatory overtime or restrictions on mandatory overtime. If the administrator wanted that, they couldn't ask the employees to discuss that.
They could not mandate that an employee must stay in a meeting to discuss that. They could not retaliate or discharge or discipline an employee for saying they did not want to participate in that meeting. They couldn't threaten to discipline someone who said, I don't want to participate in that meeting. It doesn't prohibit them from having a meeting. It prohibits them from taking those kinds of actions against the employee.
So they can still have a meeting, but it can't be mandatory.
Exactly.
And if they basically, but can they ask everyone to attend the meeting? Just making a note that it is not a mandatory meeting, but we are asking this meeting to be attended by everyone. Or can they communicate, or can they not even communicate about it?
I think that there are some exceptions. So the bill explicitly permits an employer to communicate information that is required by law, but only to the extent of the legal requirement, or B, the employees need to perform their job duties. A higher education institution to meet or participate in communications with employees that are part of coursework, a symposium, or an academic program. It does not prohibit casual conversations between employees or between the employee and the employer's agent, as long as participation is not required, and a requirement that is limited to the employer's manager, so they can still have managerial and supervisory meetings that they can require those personnel to attend.
I'm trying to clarify whether it is that it cannot be mandatory. So, for example, if there is a union a meeting on the merits of unionization, and the employer wants to speak to employees, but there is no mandate on, or there is no, some employees want to learn the other point of view, right? There are 2 points of view to any argument, and let's assume for a moment that the employer said, "I'll be holding a meeting. You don't have to come. It's not mandatory, but we are having a meeting at 9 a.m. at this point, and should you want to come, you should join us." Is that okay, or is that not even? And can they communicate that, or is that banned under this law?
This is only banning mandatory meetings. A voluntary meeting is allowed.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have quite a bit to say on this bill, but I'm going to reserve that for a future discussion. I suspect that this bill, I know there's another similar bill that's going through the Judiciary Committee route as well, and I serve on that committee as well. So I've already engaged in that conversation a few times. I just want to point out for people listening that this bill it opens the door to a lot of problems in my view. I understand the proponent's intention, which is to prohibit employees from potentially being subjected to information that they might find offensive or in disagreement with. The thing is that we already have a solution for that in a free society, and that is that there is the free association between employers and employees. There is no requirement to have a job. There's no requirement for an employer to offer someone a job, and there's no requirement for someone to keep a job that they don't like. And as a result, this type of policy flies in the face of the nature of at-will employment and freedom itself. Again, if we are going to use the state government as a means to determine what is acceptable behavior for the people in our society, and that's exactly what the majority of the bills on today's agenda, and particularly this one, speak to, we are limiting the freedom of our citizens. And that is not our job, let alone whether it's right or wrong. And I think it's clearly wrong, but it's also not our job. Our job primarily is to represent our constituents, and that means all of them. And that means the people that fall on all sides of the political spectrum. And we should be endeavoring with every vote to make sure that all sides have an equal voice. In this particular bill, you are picking and choosing a winner, like in almost every one of the previous bills and the ones on the rest of this agenda. In fact, I'd ask the people watching and the committee members to ask themselves, is there a winner or a loser in each one of the bills that we are debating here today? And sadly, there is. And not only as a winner or loser chosen by the legislation that's being put before us, we are deciding who they are, and we are using the government's ability to use force, effectively the barrel of a gun. Some people have said philosophically, which sadly and historically becomes much more than philosophically in a lot of cases, to impose this committee or this legislature's opinion on what behavior is acceptable. That is the exact opposite of what this country stands for. I know that this bill is written unfairly. It gives special preference to those folks that are promoting collective bargaining versus employers that might be opposing it. And for that reason, I think it's just unfair, period. And second of all, if we truly believe that our citizens and their personal choice about their lives and their pursuits of happiness matter, we cannot stand in the way of them making their own choices about who they work for and what the requirements of their employer are, or what the employer's requirements of them are. That should be left to those individuals to figure out for themselves. Again, I will just repeat that we live in the greatest society on earth for that reason. And every step taken to limit the freedom of individuals to make those choices for themselves and come up with their own agreements, specifically employment agreements, is a slap in the face to the way this country was founded, the notion that people are equal regardless of their background or any other factors. I think that's the second line of our state constitution, that we treat everyone equally and that we do not provide special benefits or special rights to any class or individual. I beg of my colleagues to start looking at these things more as if you represent all of your constituents and you have an obligation to all of them to protect all of their rights, not just the ones you agree with. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. I do want to, before I call on my co-chair, I want to point out that there have been rulings by the Supreme Court and our courts in general that when an employee walks through the door to the employer, they lose their First Amendment rights. And I think those rights are incredibly important to everyone. And I know that Senator Sampson, you and I, there are things that we agree on, things that we don't agree on. I think that, you know, I really truly believe this is about extending a person's right to not listen to coercive speech, whether it be about forming a union or whether it be about religious beliefs. And I think that's what we're protecting here. So I do think it's very fundamental to a person's freedom. I know I am sort of engaging with you in what you just said. So I would ask the other folks who have their hands raised to indulge me, but I would like to give Senator Sampson an opportunity to respond.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. And I appreciate you engaging me in a little bit of dialogue. I think it's instructive for both of us and for the rest of the committee members. Yeah, I don't believe that you should ever have to give up any of your constitutionally protected freedoms. I believe that those are sacred. They are inherent in us just for simply existing. And I don't believe that's what happens. I don't believe that you give up your First Amendment right when you walk through the door of your employer. And I'm not familiar with a court decision that says so, because your First Amendment right is yours to exercise, but you have a choice whether or not you walk through that employer's door. If that employer's requirement says that you cannot engage in certain types of speech, and that is very common in many employment situations, and rightfully so, you're not being limited in your First Amendment right. You're making a conscious choice to choose that employment versus the exercise of your freedom of speech. And that's what this is about. This bill is not about protecting anyone's freedom at all. This is what concerns me. Whenever we make a new law, we are not protecting freedom. We are taking it away. This bill doesn't give anyone anything. It takes away the employer's right to run their business the way they choose in America. That's what it does. It creates a penalty by the government force if you exercise a freedom that you currently have. And that's why I'm opposed to it. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate us having the conversation.
Thank you. And I do just want to add that I think where we have a fundamental disagreement beyond the question of the First Amendment and the right to free speech or the right to not engage in listening to coercive speech. I think where we fundamentally disagree is whether or not every person has a right to choose whether, I just can't abide by the notion that people have the freedom to choose not to work, because I think most people have to work. And, I know that you might in a very theoretical way pose that, but on a very practical level, people do have to go to work. They have to keep their jobs to keep food on the table, pay their rent, provide for their children, pay for that college, in just such fundamental ways. So, I think on a theoretical level, maybe that sounds good, but I know on a practical level, I think it's, I think most families in the state of Connecticut would agree that they have to work. I know, I'm sure a lot of people wish they had a little more freedom not to work so much, which is why I really support things like raising the minimum wage so that people can afford maybe just to work one job instead of multiple jobs. But, those are the things that we debate in this committee. And so, it is very germane to the topic of the labor and public employees. So I appreciate.
Can I respond just one more time?
Sure, one more time.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, I think it's very important what you brought up, but I assure you, I don't live in a theoretical world. And I believe that this bill and the minimum wage for that matter are actually limiting opportunities and choices. Anytime you pass another law that takes the side of one party or one group in the law and the way people are treated, you are limiting opportunities. In fact, the minimum wage itself is a ban on certain jobs. No one is paid more because the minimum wage is raised. That's not what happens. What you've done effectively is you've told people they can no longer work for a wage less than a certain dollar amount, eliminating all of those jobs. And it's true that some people will find new jobs at a higher wage, but they will be different jobs because the old jobs are now gone because they were banned by the government. And in this particular case, what is happening is we are banning employers that engage in this type of activity. There are some employees who want to engage in that sort of activity. And you're more important than banning that activity. You are banning the free market. You are banning the idea that businesses can be different and have different policies and offer different products and the way they do business. And when you do that, you eliminate the choice of consumers, you eliminate the choice of employees. And the sad part about all of this limitation and the government force being used to implement it is that you also reduce production. And when you reduce production by eliminating jobs or by opportunities, you end up lowering the quality of life for everyone, and particularly people on the lowest part of the income spectrum. We should never stand in the way of citizens and businesses that want to voluntarily engage in commerce. The minimum wage is a good example. I understand the intent of raising the minimum wage to $15, for example, but if a person wants to work for $10 an hour and a person wants to give them that job, why on earth would we prevent that from happening? You are just limiting the opportunity and the production that would have resulted. And I could go all day, and I'm sure you could too, Madam Chairman, but I appreciate giving me the chance to respond to your comments. And I hope we get many more debates like this as time goes on. And I will yield my time back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, I see, I always try and check, but I'm gonna, yeah, I was correct. Representative Porter, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to kind of weigh in and give my point of view on why I feel this is so critically important. And I think the first thing I'll start with is the fact that we had several people come before us during that public hearing to describe instances and situations and circumstances related to captive audience that were very disturbing. You talk about an infringement on someone's rights, on their liberties. I think what we heard testified by folks that have been impacted through lived experience spoke volumes and credence to why this is important. And I don't think that we're creating winners and losers. I think what we're actually doing is leveling the playing field and making it better for everyone involved. You know, the way this country was founded, I think that is definitely a reflection of what happens in these captive audiences. You know, we know how this country was founded, and it is certainly with special rights and special privileges for special people, for certain people. And this is something that continues to play out in our system and in the structures of the system. And this is a response to that I think is not only fair, it's very equitable. And as I stated, levels the playing field. So I hope that people will take into consideration the folks who have been living through this and currently live through this and have come to us as a body to ask for us to do this on their behalf so that they can have liberty and freedom and they can exercise their right to participate or not. We're not saying that they can't participate, but it has to be a choice. That's liberty, that's freedom. So I just wanted to put that on the record because, I mean, people have to work. And I know people that are currently working that wish they could quit the job they have because they're not happy on the job. So and I would say there's more than one world, you know, and we all have different lived experiences. And this is a response to something I think warrants not only our attention, but this policy to be effected into law. So thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity. And I do urge my members on this committee to vote in the affirmative. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next, I'll recognize Representative Hughes.
Just real quick for the record, thank you, Madam Chair. This narrative of winners and losers and freedoms presumes equal footing of power by the employee and the employer. And that is clearly not true from the testimony we heard. This captive audience legislation, this policy restores some equitable footing, like Representative Porter talked about, of the workforce to not be subjected to mandatory coercive control, especially in the right to organize in the workplace. So this bill does a little bit towards restoring some structural reform to empower a little bit of more equal footing for the employee and the employer. It does not ban these employers. It just makes it voluntary, and it does not and protects the employee with from retaliation. If they say this is not for me, it's not about doing their job. They just want to be able to do their job, and they can go back and do their job if they feel like this is coercive. Captive audience, and therefore I urge my colleagues to vote for restoring some equitable power with the workforce. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Hughes. Representative Aurora.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for this, all my members, my colleagues here, for this lively discussion on a very important topic. I would like to align my remarks with previous Senate remarks from Senator, my good Senator Sampson, or my good Senator from my good Senator from the minority ranking member, or the ranking member. The real issue here is the heart and the soul of this committee, really, which is, and it comes out in this law, in this proposed bill or proposed legislation. I think it's important for the watching public to understand that there is only 1 in 10 employees which work for firms which have unions. 9 in 10 are private sector employees which are very happy with their employers, and there's a very cordial relationship, and that's how it's working in the real world. But if you look at the representation of this committee, the majority of the members are basically have experience not of private sector management, not of managing employees in private sector, but of union leadership. And they are, and as they say, if you go to a heart doctor, what do you get? A heart surgery or a heart medication. You don't get pediatric medication from a heart doctor. And so that same thing, if you basically have a committee which is really supposed to figure out and advocate for all matters of private employment and public employment, but has folks who only have substantial and significant experience, which I do respect a lot, in running and unions, and that's what the problem is. And what happens is that private management wants to create, as we heard earlier, production, more capacity, more goods and services, more attractive goods and services, more desirable goods and services. And it looks to me that, from a point of view of all the laws and all the leadership here and all the legislation being proposed, 9 out of these 17 legislation is about unions. Some would make it believe this is just basically the entire crisis in this state is about union membership and union matters rather than, employment and what really is going on. Our constituents in the state are looking for better jobs, more opportunity, better working conditions, not just minimum wage, but much, much better ability to realize themselves, a workplace which really allows them to achieve their dreams. Work is such an important part of people's lives. And what we're doing is basically saying, reducing it to a conflict. This is a work life where, you fight with the employer and with the work, and you want to take off. And there is the other life. And that's just not the way the world works. Most people love their jobs, listen, even watch the folks on this committee. We stay till 10 p.m. and we get them in the morning and start reading the JFs and the JFSs. And, sometimes, we call early morning our legal staff and feeling guilty. We're calling them before 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. And the reality is that we need a reset. We really need a reset. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have laws which are related to union matters at all. I think we should, but they should be 10%, because 10% of our population of our basically is relevant to them. Only most of these laws are relevant to 10% of the people. Many of these laws are relevant to 10% of the people. And that's really how this committee is working. And it's sad. It's extremely sad. And I speak to my constituents. They're like, we got big issues here. The unemployment fund is going dry, and we are going to put that thing away, because nobody cares in this committee to even bring it up. There are so many, school construction, and the prevailing wage issue there and what's going on there. People want to discuss that, but, there is no interest in bringing up that issue. And not that those issues are not brought up by members. Members have been clamoring and begging and asking us to bring those issues up. And all we talk about is this stuff, because this is just unreasonable. This is representation where majority of our workforce is not represented in the labor committee. And that's sad, and I'll obviously I'll be, with my comments, I'll align myself to say no to this bill. But I hope and pray we can address real substantive issues, which will help all, not just a small 10%, but all the working men and women, working women and men of the state. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Porter.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the opportunity for a second time. I know we're trying to move this along, but for the record, I need to state that, 2020 current population survey, this is the U.S. Census Bureau, shows that 74.1% of Connecticut state and local government employees are union members. We're beating out New York. Connecticut has the most unionized public sector workforce in the country. So I just want to put that on the record. We are not addressing 10% of a work population. 3/4 of our work population are union members, and they come to us and they have these discussions with us. And we represent labor and public employees. That is this committee. And these are the issues and concerns that they bring to us. And this is how we find resolve. And it is reflected in this bill. So I just wanted to state that for the record, Madam Chair. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I saw Representative Winkler.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This bill does apply to everybody. So you pay me for my work, I come to work, and the owner of the business believes in his religion and he proselytizes. And he calls us all into a meeting to tell us how his religion is best. All this bill says is that if I decide that I've already got my own religion or I don't want any religion, I don't have to listen to him. It's not work related. I can get up and leave and he can't punish me. That seems to be a basic right of everyone. And I hope we'll support the bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Winkler. Second time, Representative Aurora.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the indulgence. I want to just correct that when I refer to 10%, that was in the overall workforce. You're correct. Madam Chair was correct in pointing out that a very large proportion of the public sector is basically unionized. I understand that, but that's just the public sector. So 250,000 people work for the public sector, 1.5 million people work for the private sector. Of the 2.5 million, 230,000, sorry, 75% are unionized. Of the 1.5 million, I think it's 5% which are unionized. You take an average, a weighted average as they call it, it comes out about 12%. So that's 12%. So the unions represent 12% of the entire workforce. Those are the real numbers. But your number is correct. 75% of the public sector is unionized, but only 5% of the 1.5 million. And majority of the employment is not created by the public sector. The public sector is responsible for only 10% of the employment. Most of the employment is created by the private sector. And that's who we go after day, who we create red tape day after day. And even if you think about all the best jobs, what people really aspire to, a majority of those jobs as well are created by the private sector. And there's some great jobs in the public sector as well, but it's not as if the public sector creates great jobs and all the other jobs private sector jobs are not good. Private sector jobs are very aspired for. People love working for the private sector. People love their private sector employers. And just like as it is in any form of human activity, there are good apples and bad apples. And then to the point which, got raised here, that yes, this does apply to religious elements as well. I understand. But you know what? Let's just be honest about the objective of this bill. I don't think we got a complaint here, somebody walking up and saying, well, there is somebody forcing me to follow we didn't hear that in any of the public hearing testimony. There is a clear agenda here. And, we can talk in code words and this and that really we're doing this, but we're doing that. What's going on here is this is a union bill to basically, increase unionization. And that's all it is. There's nothing more, nothing less. And that's why we are kind of saying, well, this is taking too much time. Let's focus on doing great job, building great jobs, expanding the big pie from 1.7 million to 2 million. From, our average actually is much more than minimum wage. Increasing wage growth, very important. Training, extremely important. Making sure that we have the greatest companies come and hire people in Connecticut and pay them a lot of dollars. That's what we want. That's what is our dream. Should be our objective. But I'll leave it there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I do want to speak from my own personal experience representing the people of the 24th Senate District that I take very seriously. The overwhelming majority of people that live in this district are workers. They work for a living, they provide for their families, and they provide for themselves. There are jobs that people aspire to that pay $15 an hour, like a childcare worker that loves their job, that loves what they do. Unfortunately, they earn very, very little in our society. There are people who, I think people do love their jobs, but that doesn't mean that they don't want to change things at work. Whether it's about listening to religious speech or whether it's about listening to political speech, including asserting their rights under federal law and under state law to form unions. So I think this is a bill that addresses the needs of all workers. And that's why I'm so encouraged by the fact that there's support for this bill, that we're living in a moment where people will see that no one should have to listen to a coercive speech, and that they will not be retaliated against or discriminated against or fired if they choose to not listen to a speech by their employer about religious, political, or union matters. And I think that's an important step forward for our state. So I want to urge my colleagues to vote for this bill, and I see no other hands, so I will ask the Madam Clerk to take the vote and not take the tally.
This is for Senate Bill 318. It's a straight JF. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Senator Sampson.
Senator Sampson votes no.
Representative Aurora,
Representative Aurora votes no.
Senator Cabrera,
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Representative Sanchez.
Rep. Sanchez votes yes.
Representative Sanchez, can you just repeat yourself, please, with your camera on?
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson votes no.
Representative Hughes.
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Representative Hughes, can you just repeat yourself one more time?
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Thank you. And I skipped Representative Hall, but I don't see him on here. Senator Lesser. Representative Retigliano.
Retigliano votes no.
Thank you. Representative Vargas.
Representative Vargas votes yes.
Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda, number 6, is Senate Bill number 317, an act concerning unemployment for striking employees, LCO number 3729. Is there a motion?
So moved. Rep Hughes seconded.
Moved by Chair Porter and seconded by Rep Hughes. This is a bill that would allow workers who are on strike to collect unemployment after 2 weeks, consecutive weeks in which they're unemployed because of a labor dispute. I think there is S language on this bill, but it was to make technical changes that redrafted the bill into an existing unemployment statute rather than creating new language. I want to say that I lived for a long time ago. I lived in the state of New York that had this opportunity. And I think that what this really does is create an opportunity where a worker who has decided to engage in a labor dispute isn't penalized and isn't shut out of unemployment because of their decision to exercise that free right under the federal law and under state law. So, I would encourage members of this committee to vote yes on this bill. Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So I just want to clarify, this bill allows someone who voluntarily leaves their employment to collect unemployment?
This bill would allow someone who is out on strike after 2 weeks to start collecting unemployment.
Does that person, is that, so, can you define on strike for me, Madam Chairman? Can they be individually on strike?
I would imagine that on strike is defined as a labor dispute where under federal law, that's 2 or more employees that would engage in that activity, protected activity under federal law.
So if I'm correct, that means that 2 or more employees under this bill could decide they do not want to go to work. And regardless of whether their claim has merit about their objection to labor practices, or they simply don't want to go, they are going to be eligible for unemployment compensation for 2 weeks based on that?
I'm sure we could look to New York State and see how this has been administered for the last 30, 40, 50 years. But I don't think there's been any difficulty for the Department of Labor and for those who manage our unemployment trust fund from determining what is a legitimate labor dispute.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands at this time. So I will ask Madam Clerk to take the roll.
This is for Senate Bill 317. It's a JFS LCO 3729. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Representative Porter, would you mind just repeating yourself, please?
Yes, Madam Clerk. Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Senator Sampson.
Senator Sampson votes no.
Thank you. Representative Aurora,
Representative Aurora is a no.
Senator Cabrera,
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Senator, can you just repeat yourself, please?
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Sanchez,
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson votes no.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes.
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Thank you. Senator Lesser, Representative Ritigliano,
Ritigliano votes no.
Representative Vargas.
Representative Vargas votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda is item number 7, House Bill number 5353, an act concerning a fair work week schedule, LCO number 3830. Is there a motion?
So
So
moved,
moved.
Representative Hughes.
Second. Second by Rep. Porter.
Moved by Representative Hughes and seconded by Rep. Porter. Any discussion? I see no hands. I will just make a point to let folks know that the substitute language makes definitions of types of employment consistent throughout the bill, specifies that employee counts are within the US or globally, specifies a whistleblower is not the states or its representatives, and specifies the regulations the labor commissioner may adopt will include a process for the commissioner to address complaints. Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Sometimes it takes me a second to find my digital hand. This bill is not new to this committee. In fact, I believe we debated it on the Senate floor last year or the year before. I have significant objections to this policy. Again, this is taking a side in a employment agreement between an employment and an employer, which should be happening based on their own free will and their own choices. And worse than that, it does it in a way that is not even feasible because there are certain industries that simply cannot accommodate the scheduling requirements that are in this bill just because of outside forces, whether it's the weather or, tourism industry or who the heck knows. You cannot write policy that is one size fits all to determine what a labor agreement between consenting adults is and expect to have a positive result. There are just some things that this legislature does not know that people on the street do. You're limiting opportunity for employees who would gladly take these positions when you eliminate them by virtue of burdensome regulation. And that's the caution to the committee not to go down this road further. But I look forward to another debate on this issue on the Senate floor if it makes it out of committee today, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Sampson. We did have a lively debate last year, and I do look forward to that again this year. Representative Aurora. Representative Aurora, do you have your hand up?
Yes, sorry, I was muted. My apology. I align my comments with my good senator here, and I agree that this bill has got some big problems. I do agree with the underlying challenge that employees and workers in these industry would like to have some more predictability. And we heard a lot about some practices in the public hearing, but the way this bill is written does not work. It's going to have a lot of concerns for both the employers and employees, unintended consequences galore. But that's nothing new to this committee, and as was mentioned, we will be rediscussing some of the issues which we spent a lot of time discussing last session. For now, based upon the way this bill was written and what all is in this bill and how it addresses the problem. And I'm not at all disagreeing with the underlying problem. I'll be voting on a no to this bill. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I see no other hands. So Madam Clerk, if you will take the roll.
I'm muted, sorry. This is for House Bill 5353, JFS to the floor, LCO number 3830. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Thank you. Senator Sampson.
Senator Sampson votes no.
Senator Sampson, I'm sorry, can you repeat yourself, please?
Yes, ma'am, of course. Senator Sampson votes no.
Thank you. Representative Aurora.
Representative Aurora votes no.
Senator Cabrera.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Representative Sanchez.
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson votes no.
Representative Hall. Representative Hughes.
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Senator Lesser. Representative Vitigliano.
Vitigliano votes no.
Representative Vargas.
Representative Vargas votes yes.
And Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on our agenda is item number 8, Senate Bill 316, an act protecting Connecticut workers, LCO number 2246. This is a straight J up to the floor. I'll take a motion.
So moved by Rep. Porter.
And a second?
Seconded, Rep. Hughes.
Thank you. This is, as has been noted when we raised this bill, this is what's considered a placeholder bill. I know some people have voiced objections to this previous meetings, but this is a part of how we are able to conduct legislative business as the session gets close to the end, things get tight. It gives us the opportunity to put together that are germane and germane to the title. And so I look forward to my colleagues supporting this legislative practice that works well for folks, regardless of which party you might belong to, but has worked historically well in our legislature. So with that, I will entertain Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. That's a debatable statement, whether or not it benefits the minority. I would say that rarely, if ever, the minority benefits from a placeholder bill. But I suppose there can be a situation where it might resolve some dispute. But usually that dispute could be resolved in other ways, like amending the original bill or terminating its existence. But let me just say that I do take exception to the bill before us. If you read through the very short paragraph, it encompasses every conceivable topic that this committee could ever address. And my objection to this type of legislation is simply that it flies in the face of having a legislative process at all. I mean, if this is the way we're going to do bills, then why bother? I mean, why bother having a public hearing? Why bother having a committee meeting? It defeats that purpose. Our job here as representatives of our constituents is to hear from the public on proposed legislation, and that legislation should be in relatively complete form when that happens. It shouldn't even be conceptual. It should be what bill we're trying to make into law so that the public can say, that's a good idea or bad idea. We don't even have the beginning of that in this particular proposed bill. There's nothing there. It just says we can bring up anything we want and stuff it in there at any point in the process when we feel like it. And that's wrong, Madam Chairman. It's just not the way we should do things. The public does not get to comment on that legislation in any format when that happens, because it will have skipped the public hearing process. And our duty here today in this committee meeting right now is to get these bills right. It is to discuss the merits of each piece of legislation, debate potential amendments, changes to those policies, so that we can have a finished product when it leaves this committee. One of my most sincere concerns about the way our majority has handled this legislature over the last 12 years that I have been here is the lack of concern for trying to get bills correct out of committee. I often joke to my colleagues that we just pass titles anyway, because it seems to me the titles are written in a way so that we can go ahead and strike all of the language on the House or Senate floor and replace it with whatever the majority chooses. That is disrespectful to the minority. It's disrespectful to the members of the majority that serve on these various committees. And it's also extremely disrespectful to the process and the people of the state who elected us to do our job properly. The constant reiteration of, well, this is how we do it, and this solves problems later. This legislature meets every year. And in fact, we meet in special session virtually every year too. We can solve problems, and there is no such problem that is so great that we could not find time to do it next year. And if it's a true emergency, we have a process for that too. Another process which is abused on a regular basis, the emergency certification process, but that's another debate for another day. I encourage my colleagues to make a statement here and say, this is wrong. We should be putting policy before our constituents that they can actually have a say on in a proper public hearing, and we should debate the merits of policy in the committee and fix bills before they leave here, not create some catch-all thing that is intended on its face for the purpose of being replaced with language that will not get either one of those benefits. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Aurora.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really want to keep this short and just to the public, watching public. This is what is abuse of the process. Please stop the abuse. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Aurora. I see no other hands. So at this time, I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
This is for Senate Bill 316, a straight JF. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Senator Sampson.
Senator Sampson votes no.
Representative Aurora.
Representative Aurora votes no.
Senator Cabrera.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Would you mind just repeating yourself, please?
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Sanchez.
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson votes no.
Representative, can you just repeat yourself, please?
Representative Anderson votes no.
Thank you. Representative Hall. Representative Hughes.
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Thank you. Senator Lesser. Representative Retigliano.
Retigliano votes no.
Representative Vargas.
Representative Vargas votes yes.
And Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next bill on our agenda is item number 9, Senate Bill 315, an act concerning unemployment benefits for adjunct higher education faculty, LCO number 2564. Is there a motion?
So moved, Rep. Hughes.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second by Rep. Porter. I thought Rep. Winkler was going to do it. He had himself unmuted, but I'll take it.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Representative Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Based on some of the testimony I read on this bill from the Connecticut Department of Labor and UConn, I oppose this bill unless I hear contrary arguments during this discussion. I notice our Department of Labor does not believe it conforms with federal law, some of the administrative requirements, and UConn testimony basically made the case that adjunct professors are mostly part-time, temporary, and may also be students. So it put an undue burden on our universities and colleges. So I have to oppose this bill, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just review, and I should have done this before we started the discussion, but this bill would require the Labor Commission to determine whether adjunct faculty have a reasonable assurance on a case-by-case basis to return to work. And so I have some experience in this field. I've spent a lot of time working with folks in higher education. And in fact, there are absolutely large, huge number of adjunct faculty now working in our universities. They far outnumber the number of full-time faculty, which is something that has shifted over a period of decades. And it is true that in many, many cases, adjunct faculty will be called back semester to semester. They're not temporary in nature, but they're considered adjuncts because in fact, they are not given a contract and they're usually not on what's known in the higher ed system as a tenure track. And what we're saying here is that if a person doesn't have a reasonable assurance that they'll be returned to work, that they can collect unemployment. It is true that there are student employees as well, and students are eligible for unemployment when they are let go from employment. And so I would urge folks to vote yes on this bill. I think that it's something that's really important for adjunct faculty. It helps them to provide for themselves when they find themselves out of work from a university because they're no longer offering a course. So I think that, it's very important for the adjunct faculty, and I would encourage folks to vote yes. Representative Porter. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the only other thing that I would add to that is recollections of other testimony, in addition to what the good representative reference was, that a very high percentage, a majority of the professors now currently serving in the state are adjunct professors, and many of them are working 2 and 3 adjunct professor positions just to make ends meet. So I think that's another reason why this is warranted, and I just wanted to add that to the record, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands at this time, I will ask Madam Clerk to read the roll. Take the roll call vote.
Senate Bill 315, a straight JF. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Sorry, if everyone who's not speaking could just mute themselves, please.
Do you need me to repeat that?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Senator Sampson.
Senator Sampson votes yes.
Can you repeat yourself, please?
Yes, ma'am. Senator Sampson votes yes.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Aurora.
Representative Aurora, you're muted.
Apology. Representative Aurora is a no.
Thank you. Senator Cabrera.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Representative Sanchez.
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson votes no.
Representative Hall. Representative Hughes.
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Senator Lesser. Representative Retigliano.
Retigliano votes no.
Representative Vargas.
Representative Vargas votes yes.
Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda is item number 10, Senate Bill 313, an act concerning adoption of the recommendations of the Task Force to Study Cancer Relief Benefits for Firefighters, and that's LCO number 2531. It's the JF to the floor. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Chair Porter, Representative Porter, and seconded by Representative Vargas. And there is in your JF summary, there's a long description of this bill, but I think, we've had a lot of discussion about it. This is a bill that would take the recommendations of the task force that was created by legislation last year and create statute. It would absolutely help protect firefighters who fall victim to cancer. And unfortunately, we heard some very compelling testimony about firefighters and the impact of getting cancer on themselves and their families. This bill adds $1.2 million into the existing firefighters relief account. It would require the Department of Labor, OSHA department to enforce best practices for preventing firefighter cancer. It would require workers' comp to maintain a record of all the claims that firefighters file due to a cancer diagnosis. It repeals a bar on firefighters from receiving benefits from the existing firefighters fund or any other wage replacement program, while also applying for workers' compensation benefits for work-related cancer. Now, let me explain that a little further. A person could receive those benefits and from the firefighter fund and then apply for workers' comp at the same time. If they were to receive workers' comp based on this legislation, the firefighters fund would be replenished and repay the amount of money that the person was awarded through workers' comp. It would require a volunteer fire department or volunteer ambulance company to comply with the state's Occupational Safety and Health Act. It would require the comptroller to conduct a study to assess the feasibility of providing pension benefits in certain circumstances when a firefighter's pension service years are met with early retirement due to qualifying cancer diagnosis. I think this is a very important bill. We know that there was work done on this in previous legislative sessions, all people with good intentions, but the benefits that they had hoped to create for firefighters did not come to fruition, both in terms of the fund not having enough money put into it for both reasons of not having the state not having put money into it, but also because I think even if the state had put the maximum amount in, it would not have been enough to really provide the relief that we're seeking for our firefighters. I really want to encourage folks to vote this out of committee. We know this is going to be one of those bills that is a work in progress. Since the public hearing, and we heard quite a bit of good testimony on this, what I think we can all agree on is that everybody wants to solve this problem. I don't think there's a single person on this committee or in the legislature who is not concerned about the fact that our firefighters who serve so nobly our community do have a higher incidence of cancer. We just haven't yet figured out the best way to address that. Since the public hearing, there have been conversations and conversations are actually scheduled to continue between the firefighters and the municipalities that are concerned about how you pay for it, and between legislators as well. And so I want to encourage folks to vote this out of committee, understanding it's a work in progress. And I really hope that we'll get to a point this session where we can have unanimity on this bill, because I really believe that everybody involved really has the best interest of our firefighters at heart. And we know that when people are serving our community in this capacity, we as a society and as community leaders have a responsibility to assure that we do the most to keep them safe and prevent cancer from happening, but that in those unfortunate instances where it does occur, that when we can relate it to being firefighters, that we have an obligation to take care of not just the firefighter, but also the families, should that firefighter be die from this cancer. So, and unfortunately happens too often. It's been in the news a lot lately. And I really think that this is a really important bill to move out of this committee and to continue working on, with the goal of getting a product that we can all agree on, or at least the majority of people will agree on, and we can vote into law this session. Having said all of that, I see Representative Aurora has his hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been waiting for this moment for a very long time here to be able to say that I fully agree with Madam Chair of this committee. I've been hoping that I could have done this sooner. I think, as you pointed out, this is a very important problem we have been trying to solve. And yes, we have hit a little bit of a roadblock, as you mentioned, that we need to get all the stakeholders to talk to each other and to bring a product which will be acceptable to everyone. The municipalities need to have a say, and they should be involved and engaged. And But at the same time, it's our job to make sure that those conversations happen and a consensus emerges and a good product, which is acceptable to all, is available for everybody's vote in the General Assembly. So I will stop there and say, well, we have we have consensus here or we have agreement, or at least I find agreement that this is a very important problem we need to solve, and we are going to keep working on this product till we get it to the finish line. Thank you, Madam Chair, and back to you.
Thank you, Representative Aurora. I don't see any other hands at this time, so I will ask Madam Clerk to take the roll.
This is for Senate Bill 313. This is a straight JF. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Senator Sampson. Is Senator Sampson still with us, or is he in a different meeting? Okay, we'll come back to him. Representative Aurora.
Aurora is a yes.
Senator Cabrera.
Senator Cabrera is a yes.
Thank you. Representative Sanchez.
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson votes yes.
Representative Hall. Representative Hughes.
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Senator Lesser. Representative Retigliano.
Retigliano votes yes.
Representative Vargas.
Representative Vargas votes yes.
Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda, item number 11, Senate Bill number 418, an act concerning wage theft. This is LCO number 2941 and straight JF to the floor. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Representative Porter, seconded by Representative Vargas. Did I get that right?
That's correct.
Thank you. So this is a bill that would create additional penalties for contractors and subcontractors on prevailing wage jobs who fail to pay their workers the required prevailing wages. It requires the Labor Commissioner to issue a citation to these violators and fixes the fine for a violation at $5,000 rather than allowing for fines ranging from $2,000 to $5,000 as current law does. The bill also allows a contractor or subcontractor who has issued a citation to request a hearing with the commissioner and request her to grant the request if the request disputes the material facts supporting the citation. And I think this is really important for contractors or subcontractors that have more than one violation within a 5-year period. The bill also requires the commissioner to refer the violator to the Attorney General, who may bring a civil lawsuit to recover any unpaid wages plus interest. I think that ultimately what we're trying to accomplish with this bill is to make sure that our state is dealing with wage theft that occurs amongst contractors and subcontractors, and that will really discourage this activity. We know there are repeat offenders, and those repeat offenders don't find that the penalty is great enough to stop them from being repeat offenders. So hopefully this updating of the law and the process would provide that deterrent, that we can make sure that the really good contractors that are out there, that are the good players, that we know there are many of them in the state, that they're not put at an unfair advantage from those who would seek to take advantage, to ignore the law and take advantage of both the workers and the system. So I would like to encourage all of our committee members to vote yes on this bill. I don't see any hands. Seeing no hands, I will ask the clerk to take the vote.
This is Senate Bill 418, a straight JF. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Representative Porter, I'm sorry, can you just repeat yourself?
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Thank you.
You're
Senator
welcome.
Sampson.
Senator Sampson votes no.
Thank you. And Senator Sampson, I just wanted to let you know you missed the last vote. So if you could just wait till the end.
I know I missed a couple, so I will get you later. I'm sorry.
If that's
Trying
okay.
to do multiple things.
I totally understand. Representative Aurora,
Representative Aurora is a no.
Senator Cabrera, Representative Sanchez,
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson votes no.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes,
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Ritigliano,
Ritigliano votes no.
Representative Vargas.
Representative Vargas votes yes.
Thank you. And Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, I did note that Senator Cabrera is here. I think, again, he was trying to get on before you moved on, so.
No problem. Senator
Senator-
Cabrera.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We're going to have to adjust the cadence for Senator Cabrera to just, have an opportunity to come on camera. Thank
Sure.
you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Our next item on the agenda is item number 12, House Bill 5440, an act concerning state employees and equitable holidays. And this is a straight JF to the floor. Is there a
So
motion?
moved. Hughes so moved.
Moved by Representative Hughes,
Second.
second by Chair Porter. This bill requires DAS to study the benefits, implications, and feasibility of establishing a holiday policy where full-time state employees are able to substitute at least 2 current state holidays for religious observances of their choosing. DAS must submit the report to the Labor Committee by January 1st, 2023. Is there any discussion? Seeing no hands, I'll ask Madam Clerk to take the roll.
This is for House Bill 5440, straight JF, Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Senator Sampson,
Senator Sampson votes no.
Representative Aurora,
Representative Aurora is a yes.
Senator Cabrera,
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Representative Sanchez,
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson votes yes.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes,
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Ritigliano,
Ritigliano votes no.
Representative Vargas,
Representative Vargas votes yes.
and Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda is item number 14, Senate Bill number 421, I'm sorry, I skipped one. It's item number 13. It's House Bill 5442, an act concerning experience rate, and this is a JFS to the floor. Is there a motion?
Rep.
So
Hughes so
moved.
moved. Seconded.
Moved by Representative Porter, seconded by Representative Hughes. This bill requires DOL to study businesses that had their experience rate increased despite the passage of Public Act 21-5. In general, that act provided that the unemployment benefits paid to an employer's former employees between July 1, 2019 and June 30, 2021 would not affect the employer's experience rate. The bill requires DOL to report its findings to the Labor and Public Employees Committee by January 1, 2023. The report must include the employers that had their experience rates increase how many people were impacted in the cost of the state and the employer. There is substitute language here. It's LCO number 3788. And the only change in that, well, there were a couple of changes. One, requires DOL to conduct the study instead of workers' comp commission, and it specifies the details that must be included in the report. Having explained that, I see Representative Aurora has his hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is really a required bill and legislation because of the need to address the unintended consequences of a bill we passed last year, where good employers who actually did not lay off anyone during the worst time in the economy, or one of the worst situations in the economy during the pandemic, but for one reason or the other had to lay off someone prior to that, get dinged or get really penalized. And so I think it's a good thing to kind of mitigate an issue with a past bill or a past legislation now. There were some testimonies or some public hearings during the public hearing suggesting that we should actually be fast and make that change right now. But then there's always a question, let's get this right this time. I would have been supportive of doing it faster, but nevertheless, the bill before us is about doing a study to figure out what the right way is to give to find an answer to change the nature of the legislation, which is already on the books. So I'm very supportive of the bill. I'll be voting yes, and I ask my colleagues in this committee to support this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Aurora. I don't see any other hands at this time. So I'll ask Madam Clerk to read the roll.
This is House Bill 5442 to JFS with LCO number 3788. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Senator Sampson.
Senator Sampson votes yes.
Can you repeat yourself, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm a problem child. Senator Sampson votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Aurora.
Representative Aurora is a yes.
Thank you. Senator Cabrera.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Senator, would you just mind repeating yourself, please?
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Sanchez.
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson votes yes.
Would you mind repeating yourself, please?
Representative Anderson votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Hall. Representative Hughes.
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Thank you. Senator Lesser. Representative Ritigliano.
Ritigliano votes yes.
Representative Vargas.
Representative Vargas votes yes.
And Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda is Senate Bill number 421, an act concerning standard wages, and this is the JF to the floor. Can I have a motion? Moved by Representative Vargas.
Seconded,
Yes,
Rep Hughes.
Seconded by Rep Hughes. This is a bill that requires contractors covered by the state standard wage law to provide a standard rate of paid leave to their employees, regardless of how they otherwise meet the existing law's requirement to pay the prevailing rate of benefits. The rate of leave must be based on either one, federal law, or two, CBAs that cover at least 500 employees in the same job classification in Harford County. In general, the state standard wage law requires private contractors to perform building and property maintenance, property management, or food service work in state buildings to pay their employees a certain level of wages and benefits determined by the labor commissioner according to a statutorily defined process. Any discussion? Seeing, Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just, I think that most of us on the committee have a pretty good idea what these bills are and so forth, but I'm certain there are people watching. This bill essentially is an expansion of the existing prevailing wage law that says that contractors that are hired for construction jobs for municipalities or the state have to be paid a certain amount. This goes a little further and says that they also have to be provided these benefits. And all that sounds well and good, except for the fact that two things. One is that will certainly drive up the cost of these projects. And as a result, the cost to taxpayers in the form of their municipal property taxes. And secondly, the whole notion of prevailing wage flies in the face of, competition and choice and freedom for contractors and municipalities to make their own decisions about who they want to hire to do a job. I've opposed prevailing wage laws all along and have done my best to try and modify them so that they are at least beneficial to the taxpayers who ultimately pay all our salaries and the salaries of the people making those decisions. Because ultimately they should reap the benefit of the policy that we employ and not have to pay a higher bill because of it. And this is a way to a higher bill. And therefore, Madam Chairman, I'm going to vote against it, and I encourage my colleagues to do as well.
Thank you, Senator Sampson. Representative Aurora.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I align my comments with the good senator who spoke right before me. I think this is a question of competition, and this bill is anti-competitive. And for that reason, I'll be voting against the bill, and I urge other members of the committee to do so as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Aurora. I don't see any other hands at this time, so I will ask Madam Clerk to take the vote.
This is for Senate Bill 421, straight JF. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Senator Sampson.
Senator Sampson votes no.
Representative Aurora.
Representative Aurora is a no.
Senator Cabrera.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Representative Sanchez.
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson votes no.
Representative Hall. Representative Hughes.
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Senator Lesser. Representative Ritigliano.
Ritigliano votes no.
Representative Vargas.
Representative Vargas votes yes.
And Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next bill is item number 15, House Bill number 5443, an act concerning identity theft. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Seconded, Rep. Hughes.
Moved and seconded. This is a bill that would make it a discriminatory employment practice for an employer to require an applicant for a job to provide his or her social security number on an initial employment application. There's an existing statute here that lists things that can't be required, and social security number would be added to that list. Any discussion? Representative Aurora.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Really good bill, protects employees. I think no cost to any employer. I really appreciate the committee bringing this bill up, and I appreciate the sponsor of this bill as well, the proponent of the bill. And I urge members to advance it other committee. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Aurora. I don't see any other hands, so at this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
This is House Bill 5443 straight JF. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Senator Sampson.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Senator Sampson votes yes.
Representative Aurora.
Representative Aurora is a yes.
Senator Cabrera.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Representative Sanchez.
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson votes yes.
Representative Hall. Representative Hughes.
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Senator Lesser. Representative Ritigliano.
Ritigliano votes yes.
Representative Vargas.
Representative Vargas votes yes.
Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Funny enough, I did not get that. Would you mind repeating yourself?
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item on our agenda is number 16, House Bill number 5444, an act concerning union workers. Is there a motion?
So moved by Rep. Porter.
Moved by Rep. Chairman Porter, Chair Porter,
Seconded by Rep. Vargas.
seconded by Vargas. This is an act, this bill expands the list of unfair labor practices by an employer in the State Labor Relations Act that covers private employers that are not covered by the National Labor Relations Act. Makes it an unfair labor practice for an employer to, one, misrepresent an employee to an employee that the employee is included or excluded from a bargaining unit, or two, permanently replace an employee who participates in the strike. Representative Aurora.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will just expand upon my earlier comments that this is one of the 7 or 8 bills or 7 bills which is focused on union representations and matters with that regard. I repeat that only 1/10 of our entire Connecticut workforce is really unionized, and we have many other important matters, and so I do not think this is the right idea and the right concept, and I would be voting against this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Aurora. And I just want to make a couple of comments about this bill. There's been documentation and data provided in studies for decades and decades that workers who are unionized earn higher wages and higher benefits. And I think this bill really pertains to all working people in Connecticut to assure them the opportunity, if they choose, to freely associate with their coworkers and engage in collective bargaining. So I appreciate this bill. I know that we have leadership in the House that really, encouraged us to vote on this bill, to bring this bill forward, and I appreciate their efforts because I think that it does pertain to the overwhelming majority of workers in our state who do not yet have those collective bargaining rights. I do want to point out that this actually is confined to a small subsection who fall between the cracks and are not covered by their private employees of a private employer, but they are not covered by the National Labor Relations Act. So having said that, I see no other hands, so I would ask the clerk to take the roll.
This is for House Bill 5444 straight JF. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Would everyone mind just muting themselves, please? Representative Porter, can you repeat yourself?
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Thank you. Senator Sampson. Representative Aurora.
Representative Aurora is a no.
Thank you. Senator,
Sampson is a no also. Sorry, my mute button wasn't working. Zoe.
okay, thank you. Senator Cabrera,
Senator Cabrera is a yes.
Representative Sanchez,
Representative Sanchez is a yes.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson? No, is a no.
Thank you. Representative Hall, Representative Hughes,
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Ritigliano,
Tigliano votes no.
Representative Vargas,
Representative Vargas votes yes.
thank you, and Representative Winkler,
Representative Winkler votes yes.
thank you.
Senator Kushner, you're muted if you're trying to read the next item.
You know, I haven't muted all day, and then I finally heard our Madam Clerk say, would you all mute while I'm calling the roll? And I finally muted and forgot that I had to unmute. So thank you, Representative Hughes, for pointing that out to me. I was doing really well. I said, this is the last item on our agenda, item number 17. Senate Bill number 423, an act improving indoor air quality in public school classrooms. This is a straight JF to the floor. And is there a motion?
So moved.
Representative Hughes seconded.
Moved by Representative Porter, our chair, and seconded by Representative Hughes. This bill requires the Labor Commissioner in consultation with the Education Commissioner and the OPM Secretary to establish a routine school indoor air quality assessment and ventilation monitoring program. And they're required to do this by June 30th, 2023 for use by local and regional boards of education. This is an extensive bill that really will set some requirements for the quality of air in our schools. I know that there's been a serious effort made during COVID to update ventilation systems. We did learn during the pandemic the very poor quality of air in many of our schools. And this not only impairs the learning process, but it endangers both students and staff. So I think I welcome this bill. I think that it's the right thing for our schools and for our children. It's really important that we pass this bill out of our committee. I know there were some issues raised in the public hearing about the ability to do these ventilation assessments all at the same time. And I hope that we will continue to discuss how we might address that if it becomes a problem. With that, I would encourage members to vote yes on this bill. Representative Rutigliano, I see your hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. I read through the bill and I read through the summary, and I'm all in favor of the ventilation systems for the schools, improving the air quality. The only section of the bill that I could read was it referred to temperature and humidity level. Is this a ventilation bill or is this an air conditioning bill?
I think it's both. It does talk about the ventilation assessments, which I think are really critically important here. And that is in the bill. And it requires them to have, there are, folks who specialize in this ventilation assessment, and it requires people to engage, the schools to engage in that process. It also does address the temperature, which is another key factor and is supported by having good ventilation. Both humidity is a problem and also temperature.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I haven't really thought how I was going to vote today, but I really do support improving the air quality in the schools. I don't necessarily think that our job to mandate my local school district to put in air conditioning. I know it would be quite expensive, especially for districts that have older schools. But I look forward to continue to work on at least the ventilation aspects of it, or improving the air that they actually breathe, which I think is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Rutigliano. Representative Aurora.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think You did reserve the best for last. I think this is a really good concept and bill. I think the language and the way it's written is not something which is good. I think the challenge is real important and our public needs it solved, which is our schools need to have the right HVAC systems, which includes air quality and which includes some degree of climate control. I know schools which meet sometimes for special classes in the summer and it's 90 degrees and humidity is an issue that leads to mold and other major problems. I think this is just an idea which is extremely important. And I would say it's really a good thing that our committee brought it up. I do not think it belongs to our committee, to tell the truth, but at the same time, I'm still very glad that we overreached to start the conversation, because the education committee has got a lot more important aspect to do with this. The environment committee should have something to do with this. And there's many other appropriations will have a lot to do with this, because this is a very expensive idea, or not expensive idea. It requires a lot of funding because there's hundreds of schools, which especially the old schools, it's going to be extremely expensive. But certain things we all know is maybe expensive, but need to be done. It's just because it's expensive, we shouldn't really avoid those kind of situations or challenges. And yes, every place has an employee and employer, so we can make our way into every situation as well. So to some extent, the labor committee has to be involved as well. But I would say the focus and the way it's written, and I read so much about specific temperature levels and quality levels and, complaints process, frequency of assessments. I think this is just a wrong way to do the right thing, just the wrong way. I think all of these schools need to be encouraged with some standards to put a HVAC system which makes sense, which is a state of the art, which is modern, which is our Connecticut students deserve good air quality, deserve a modern HVAC system. Any house, any school built in the last 10 years already would have this. But just because a school was built 30 years ago, it doesn't really mean that we cannot reflect it to have the right climate control and HVAC system. I cannot tell you how supportive I am of this idea. Of all the things we have looked at in this committee, this really resonates with me the most. It really resonates with my constituents whom I've spoken to, because after this, I did take a time to speak to many constituents, and even for areas where their own school has been rebuilt recently, constituents pointed out to me that the other school still needs to change and get a new HVAC system. So I will be supporting this bill here with a clear understanding that this language and this whole bill needs to change to reflect a very practical process, to put a practical process in place to give the right amount of provide funding as well as a timeline. The timeline also, I don't think we can do all Connecticut schools in a matter of 3 or 4 years. That's not going to that's just too challenging a timeline. So without digressing anymore, I do think that this is a very important topic. I'm fully behind it. I want to spend a lot of time during the assembly discussing it and working with others other committees, other members of the legislature, even with the executive members of the administration, to figure out the right way to get this done over a period of time. There is challenges which our society faces, and we need to understand that it's going to take time. But the first thing is to recognize the problem and the extent of it, which this bill definitely does. And I congratulate you for bringing this up, Madam Chair. I congratulate our members for really, spending a lot of time on it. I just hope that we can work on this bipartisan with other stakeholders and use this, perhaps the leadership in the Labor Committee, to bring this up early in the session and to discuss this. And perhaps this may end up as a study in the first period to basically see, because it's a complicated topic. We have had studies on topics which are not as complicated at times. This is a complicated topic, need to address it. I'm going to say yes to this right now, but I do want to make it clear that this needs a lot more work with a lot more stakeholders, and we got to get this right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Aurora. I would like to say that I'm very pleased that our committee has raised this bill. I think during the public testimony, it was made very clear that the people we're asking to work in these conditions, it's terrible for them. And it isn't just the temperature, although the temperature is incredibly important, but it's also the lack of proper ventilation tends to make people sick. And that's a problem for the people that work there. We're in one of those situations where as a labor committee, we actually often have the opportunity by making things better at work for the employees that we are charged with the responsibility of addressing their needs and their conditions. We often have a situation where we make things better for employees. We make things better for the community. And in this case, it's clearly the students that will benefit from these actions on our part. I was very moved by the testimony that came out and said that we actually set temperature controls that are better in terms of taking care of animals than we do in terms of taking care of the people who are working in our schools. And I think that really resonated with me because I feel like we should at least be treating our school employees and our students as well, if not better than we would treat animals. And I think this is a really important step on our part. I don't think there's any time to lose because we've already known from recent events in the pandemic that this can be extremely dangerous for people. But it's not just the pandemic. We know that in certain buildings, bad ventilation system can impact, as was said, mold, but also can spread all kinds of disease. And so I think we are at a time where we have to really move this forward. And I look forward to voting on this today. I just see Representative Vargas has his hand up, and I know you've got some real life experience with this, so I'm anxious to hear from you.
Yes, I think we're all in agreement, so I won't belabor the point too much. But I'd just like to say, as having my wife and I having been both teachers during 35 years, having experienced the whole thing with the 1970s when everything was about trying to preserve energy. So we sealed up all the windows. All the buildings that were built during the 70s were built to make sure there was no air exchange. There was supposed to be a unit on the roof of each building that brought a minimum of air to meet the federal standards. But unfortunately, that minimum of fresh air was affected by the fact that we didn't change the filters as often as those machines were supposed to have those filters changed. So in essence, we were getting less than the federal minimum requirements of fresh air into the buildings. There was an increase in all kinds of respiratory problems. And even the older buildings that were built before this whole efficiency thing of the 1970s and early 80s, some of the older buildings have been built like in the 1920s and 30s. What they did was they nailed the windows shut so that no one could open the window. And we lived through that period with a lot of kids sick, a lot of teachers sick. So I'm glad that we're finally, taking a great step forward in addressing this issue. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Vargas. Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to align my remarks with the ranking member, but I recognize this is a serious issue and just some concerns about unfunded mandates and the strict timeline and the requirement to shut down schools for a couple of days. But I will support this bill to keep it alive, and hopefully we can make it a little better. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Aurora.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for recognizing me the second time. I want to point three things about this bill, which we all should be thinking about, and members of the public should also be should know that we are thinking about. Number one, that we are talking about not millions, but billions of dollars here. Because if we add up each of the schools, and we think about how much cost it's going to be, typical cost has run between 3 million and 10 million. And I know that because one of our schools did make an improvement in recent years. If you even think about 10 million times 500 schools, that's 5 billion. So we're talking about billions, not millions. And and this is a big number. I think it's somewhere between 1 and 10 billion. That doesn't help as an estimate, but this is a big problem, and a big amount of funding is going to be required. The second thing I do want to put about is that this cannot be about regulation complaints and making people do it because we're gonna hurt them, or we're gonna fine them, we're gonna put them in trouble. This is not, because we haven't ended up here because of anybody's specific fault, and let's not go there. I think the good representative before me who just mentioned that he had worked both in him and his wife had worked in schools, just mentioned that there were some energy reasons. There was the 70s, which had a very different kind of priorities, which we had as a nation and as a state. And so there are reasons we are here. And I don't think what we need to focus on a bill like this is the complaint process and the victimization or some kind of finding the bad guy in the future. This is not what it's going to be about. We know we have a problem. Most of us recognize it. We know it's a big problem. We know we got to address it. We just need to be problem solver here as to reduce the cost by increasing perhaps standardization, provide a state municipal partnership, things of that sort, and more importantly, provide funding. And finally, the third element I want everybody to think about is timeline. When we're talking about 500 structures or even more, 500 to 1,000 structures, we're talking about multi-billion-dollar construction improvements. This is going to take time. It might take 5 to 10 years. We have to get started right now, and that's the most important thing. But to say something as if by 2026 it's going to happen, it just does not sound realistic to anybody who lives in the real world. And at the same time, we don't want to make it political, that saying that, listen, push everybody to sign something which is not doable and is going to create shoddy work or not solve the problem. So the third element of what I want to point out, and I hope everybody thinks about it, is what is the timeline and how do we do it fairly so that everybody makes some progress over years. And we don't even need to have an end date. We need to have a annual report card that everybody, that the state, as well as various communities around the state, are making progress, not just one part of the state or the other part of the state. All parts of the state should be making progress consistently till we solve this problem. I really am excited that we are thinking about this big picture problem. When I joined the state government 3 years ago, this is the kind of impact I really would like us to make. I'm very excited about the debate. What I just hope and pray is that this does not get hijacked with a preordained answer, because we all have to debate this, discuss it, get the experts in, get the people who are going to stakeholders in, and work towards a consensus solution which finds itself implemented in a robust, cost-effective, and timely manner. And I am very excited to think about it and work on this. And I thank you once again for bringing this up. And once again, I'll be voting yes to enable debate, not liking the way this is implemented here. But we need to have debate. We need to discuss this and flesh this out. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I don't see any other hands at this time. So I will ask Madam Clerk to read to take the roll call.
This is Senate Bill 423, straight JF. Senator Kushner.
Senator Kushner votes yes.
Representative Porter.
Representative Porter votes in the affirmative.
Senator Sampson. Representative Aurora.
Representative Aurora is a yes.
Senator Cabrera,
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Representative Sanchez,
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson votes yes.
Representative Hall, Representative Hughes,
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Senator Lesser, Representative Retigliano,
Taliano votes yes.
Representative Vargas,
Representative Vargas votes yes.
Representative Winkler.
Representative Winkler votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Votes will be held open, and it is now 2:38. We will hold votes open, let's say 4 o'clock. That way it will be a little more than an hour after this meeting adjourns. I do want to announce the time and date of the next meeting. We will have our next committee meeting on this coming Thursday, March 24th at 10 a.m. So I hope everyone will mark their calendars. We have no further business today. The meeting will be recessed in order to hold the votes open. Any closing remarks, Representative Porter?
No, just
Madam
for everyone to enjoy their day and to thank the public for tuning in and watching as we go through the process of what we've been elected to do, and that is to pass legislation that benefits the state of Connecticut. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Any other closing remarks by Representative Aurora or Senator Sampson?
No, Madam Chair, I think we've said a lot, and I thank you, and thank you. And I do thank the public for spending time, listening to our process and our deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so that concludes our business for this afternoon. As I said, the meeting is recessed until 4 p.m., at which time people will have an opportunity to vote before 4. And then at that time, the meeting will be adjourned. Thank you all.
Representative Sanchez, you missed a few votes. So you missed the first one, which is Senate Bill 321. It's a JFS, LCO number 3657. How do you care to vote?
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Thank you. You missed House Bill 5357, JFS, LCO 3883. How do you care to vote?
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Senate Bill 320, straight JF. How do you care to vote?
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
House Bill 5355, JFS, LCO number 3658. How do you care to vote?
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
I think that was the only ones that you missed. Let me just go through the rest of them and I'll double check. You are all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Hi, Senator.
Hi, Madam Clerk. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Just cleaning out my remaining items in my inbox as I get down to close to inbox 0.
I am a little shocked to hear that you're down close to 0, but maybe that's just for purposes of being on YouTube Live.
248,000 emails. We're getting there.
That's close. It's a lot closer to 0 than, before. Okay, so would you like me to go through each bill with its title, or just the item number? Do you have the agenda in front of you? How would you like me to do this?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me pull up the agenda in front of me so that you don't have to do that.
Okay. I can read you. You should have all of the substitute language in your inbox, but I can read you the new LCO numbers if you'd prefer, whatever you'd like.
Okay, so item number 1, Senate Bill 321. I would like to vote in the affirmative.
Okay, I can read out the bill numbers if you'd like. House Bill 5357.
I would like to vote in the affirmative.
Can you just state your name, please?
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
Thank you. And just for the purposes of the last vote, 321.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
Thank you. Senate Bill 320.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
Thank you. House Bill 5355.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
Thank you. Senate Bill 318.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
Senate Bill 317.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
House Bill 5353.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
Senate Bill 316.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
Senate Bill 315.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
Senate Bill 313.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
Senate Bill 418.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
House Bill 5440.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
House Bill 5442.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
Senate Bill 421.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
House Bill 5443.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
House Bill 5444.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
And Senate Bill 423.
Senator Lesser in the affirmative.
Thank you, Senator Lesser. You can change it up so people don't think like the video and the audio is not working.
Just wanted to even professional appeal. Thank you, Madam Clerk. That concludes the items for which I had not voted.
Perfect. I'll see you on Thursday in Labor and in Judiciary.
Great. I'm excited for that. All right. Thank you.
Bye. Hi, Representative Hall. How are you?
Good, yourself?
Good, thank you. Do you have the agenda in front of you?
Just a second, okay?
Are you fine with me reading just the bill number, or would you like me to read the title as well?
You can read the, let me just pull it up.
Yeah, no problem.
Are we gonna go in order?
Yeah, yes, of course. So you voted on the first item.
Yeah.
So the second one is House Bill 5357. It's a JFS with LCO number 3883.
Yes.
Can you just state your name and then your vote?
Representative Hall, yes.
Thank you. Senate Bill 320, straight JF.
Representative Hall, yes.
Thank you. 5355, it was a JFS, LCO number 3658.
I'm sorry, what was that number again?
3658, that's the LCO number. The bill number is 5355.
Representative Hall, yes.
Senate Bill 318, just a straight JF.
Representative Hall, yes.
Okay. Senate Bill 317, it's a JFS with the new LCO number 3729.
Representative Hall, yes.
Thank you. House Bill 5353, it's a JFS with the new LCO number 3830.
Representative Hall, yes.
Senate Bill 316, just a straight JF.
Representative Hall, yes.
Senate Bill 315, straight JF.
Representative Hall, yes.
Senate Bill 313, straight JF.
Representative Hall, yes.
Senate Bill 418, straight JF.
Representative Hall, yes.
House Bill 5440, straight JF.
Representative Hall, yes.
House Bill 5442, it's a JFS, LCO number 3788.
Representative Hall, no.
No, excuse me. Senate Bill 421, straight JF.
Representative Hall, yes.
House Bill 5443, straight JF.
Representative Hall, no.
House Bill 5444, straight JF.
Representative Hall, yes.
And Senate Bill 423, which is a straight JF.
Representative Hall, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
You too as well. Take care.